Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. And I am Ashwini Patel, and I will be your host for today. As you all know, that we Innovation Cell and Entrepreneurship Cell, NIT Raipur, we are going to present a workshop on design and thinking with Disha Kaushal ma'am, which is a 5-day workshop. We Innovation Cell and Entrepreneurship Cell and NIT Raipur is a team of most ingenious students and professors. We just don't engineer things but add value to it. We work hard to develop an innovative instinct in every student and touch as many lives as with it. Our team aims to instill the essence of revolution and entrepreneurship among the students, reassure and assist innovation through direction, mentorship, and support. We provide an idea friendly environment and take their ideas to most profitable stages by making out most of it. Now, let me give you a brief introduction about Disha ma'am. Disha Kaushal ma'am is working as an educator and SDG advocate since 2015, a design thinking consultant at Tinker Labs, and a postgrad in strategic design management from National Institute of Design. She has worked as a project manager for community radio mobile app, research for a children's project with Sesame Street, design strategic for iOS app, and as junior graphic designer and copywriter for Grazia India. So that has been all about her. I think it's a lot. So let's, without wasting much of time, let's go to Disa ma'am and start the workshop.
Okay. Thank you, Ashwini, and thank you, NIT Raipur Innovation and Entrepreneurship Cell. My association with the E-Cell of NIT Raipur goes a little further, and we've known each other for, I think, 2 years, more than that, a little more than that. And I've come to your campus also 2 times, once for a full-fledged workshop and once for a small talk on design thinking and entrepreneurship. So, how is this session different? First of all, because as you all will know, and we in complete agreement that the world is a different place post the COVID pandemic, and many of us, and in fact, all of us are adapting to this new way of life. This entire wave is new for us, and we are trying to adapt as best as we can. And design thinking as a way of thinking, and not just thinking, in fact doing things, it becomes particularly more important in today's day and age. I have named specifically named my presentation design thinking for a post-COVID world, because it becomes even more important. And I've seen people who have not been formally trained in design thinking or even anywhere closer to design, who are doing very well, and they are using this novel way of thinking to solve complex problems, be it foot operated sanitizer machines, or low contact teaching, low contact drug administration, low contact vaccination. So many new things and new ideas have come up that it's commendable how the entire world has adapted and learned. Even children have who were struggling so much in the beginning, and teachers, you know, to deliver lectures on. I've seen some fascinating work come out of this limitation that we are not able to meet in person. So let me tell you a little bit briefly about what design thinking is and why we should be talking about this right now. Um, okay, so design thinking and innovation and entrepreneurship, the two words for which this E-Cell stands for, are closely interlinked. And I personally believe that design thinking is a very misleading term, because whenever we talk about design thinking, people automatically assume that it is something to do with design and beautification of things, or something to add more ornamental value, and then it completely dilutes the purpose of you know bringing a new product or a service to life. So I'll tell you why design thinking gets the name design and thinking from. Because it is an iterative, creative, problem solving process which seeks to understand the user. And it can be any user, any stakeholder in the complex problem that we are trying to solve. It challenges assumptions and redefines the problem, utilizing elements from the designer's toolkit like empathy and implementation and experimentation in an attempt to identify alternative strategies and innovative solutions. So there are five things when which we must remember when we are trying to understand what design thinking is. Okay, firstly, that it is a iterative, creative problem solving process. It goes on and on in circles, and you keep improvising, like how typically engineering students develop apps, and you keep coming on with better versions. So it is like it is iterative and creative problem solving. So this is number one thing that you need to remember. Second is that you challenge assumptions. You try to go beyond your existing knowledge, try to challenge the assumptions and dig out deeper to understand the problem better and redefine the problem. So you're challenging assumptions and you're redefining the problem, borrowing elements from a designer's toolkit, which are empathy and experimentation, so that you can come up with alternative strategies and innovative solutions. So there are five things that design thinking is made up of and you can use to understand it. So the word design is used purely because we are using toolkits, a designer toolkit, critical, what should I say, ingredients from there. So that is the only purpose of design thinking, using the word design thinking. Otherwise, it is known by many other names, critical problem solving or critical thinking or disruptive thinking or lateral thinking and systems thinking. So these are all the words in different spheres of the world, in different industries that people have used to explain and somewhat cover the same thing. Now, why do we need to know about design thinking or why it becomes particularly important is because, especially, you need to use this for areas which are highly complex and uncertain. There is no fixed one solution, there is no definite solution to the problem. Secondly, there are multiple stakeholders involved, and their levels of facing the problems or disruptions in their life vary from person to person. Take this pandemic, for example. It is posing challenges for all sectors of the society, but the challenges are different in nature. Teachers have their own sets of problems, students have their own sets of problems, connectivity issues, lack of space, lack of devices, or lack of privacy, on then teachers trying to adapt to a new medium. Then the marginalized people have another problem that they don't have access to digital technology. Then healthcare system is has gone through a major drastic overhaul. So there are multiple changes, and people are trying, using trial and error to come up with possible solutions. But there is no one perfect solution that can be you know said that this is it. So these are areas where design thinking can be particularly important, and people are making different choices, but they might not be in alignment with each other. For example, um, in the beginning, people were using Zoom, and then there was this whole privacy issue and the national conflict with the parent company, China, and so many things happening. So whenever in consulting also there is a problem which does not have a predecessor matlab ki, it's something that has not happened in its same form in the past. Although we have had pandemic, but at least in the last 100 years this is something novel and completely unheard of, and it has changed how our lives are. We are moving around with masks. Our children are locked up inside homes. And even today, in many parts of the country, people are still very scared to step out. I don't know how. the status is in whichever cities you are living in and attending this workshop from. But things have quite a bit disrupted, and then in these kind of situations, it is that design thinking becomes particularly important. And I'm going to introduce the term to you, which is called wicked problem. Please write it down, and you can have a look at it later. Ashwini, Ashwini, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Is somebody going to be running my slides so that whenever I'm
Yeah, ma'am. Just a minute. I'm just presenting it.
okay, because it's kind of difficult to retain so many new things in a go. Yes, I was talking about wicked problem. Wicked problem is a problem which is has a cultural and social nature, and it is difficult and almost impossible to solve it completely because you don't have complete knowledge about it, or there is contradictory information. Some people, जैसे अभी भी some people are saying that it's a great thing. Now, of course, it's a national achievement that we've been able to administer the vaccine dosages to so many people in our country. At the same time, some people are hesitant because people have comorbidities and many other problems that people are facing. So, these things also exist, and there are a large number of people and opinions involved. There is a large economic world, and the interconnected nature of the problem makes it very difficult to solve it completely. Say, for example, the plastic problem. You understand that how plastic is an integral part of our lives, and you know today it is seen as the biggest pain in our lives, and a big problem which is causing so many difficulties. But go back a little in time, say around 20, 30 years ago. This is one thing which was considered a magic material because it brought down transportation costs and in turn fuel consumption costs to such a low that it was called as magic material. So look at how the context and the timing in the use of a specific material can bring about such a drastic change in how the same material is used, because most of the plastic that is lying there in the ocean world has been produced and consumed in the last 20 years, which is your lifetime. So it is for us to examine how this problem is created by ourselves, and how we have turned something which was aimed to be very helpful and fruitful to something as disturbing as you know how plastic is in our life right now. So 1 second, Ashwini, can you move the slides? Yes. Yes. So I had discussed about design thinking, when to use it, how design thinking helps in innovation, and then move further. Just a minute. Just a minute. Yes. Okay. Am I the host? Am I allowed to present? Because I think my laptop might be in a better state right now. Ashwini? Okay, great. The slide is in front of you. Okay, great. So yeah, this slide covers exactly what I was talking about earlier about design thinking being in iterative, creative problem solving process, understanding the user, redefining the problem, and using the elements from a designer's toolkit, which are empathy and experimentation. to in an attempt to come up with alternative solutions and innovative solutions. Okay, so that's that. And then went on to explain to you what wicked problems are, giving two specific examples of wicked problems that we all are in right now. One is COVID-19, and second one is the menace of plastic consumption and excessive usage in our life. So, anything else? Any questions that you're getting from YouTube? You can share it with me right now, or we can move on to the next slide. Ashwini? Okay.
Yes, ma'am, please move ahead. Ma'am, I guess we were on this slide.
Can we move to slide number 5 and then to slide 6?
Okay, five. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is what I was telling you, where you should be using design thinking. And typically, so when you find yourself in the middle of something as disruptive to our lives as has been the COVID-19 pandemic, you can see that it is the dictionary definition of a wicked problem because it fits in at each of these levels. It's a highly uncertain area. People are making so many choices that we don't know that are right or wrong for them. um, आप घर में रहते हैं तो you are trapped and your economic of the family and the nation are suffering. बाहर जाते हैं, then also you're exposing yourself to all sorts of things of the virus in different formats. And regardless of all the what do I say precautions that you take, there is still a likelihood because as you've seen from the breaking news, the numbers of the cases are surging again. So you never know. It's a very dicey situation to go out, to not to go out, to do something, to not to do something. So you're constantly in this dilemma state. And of course, there are multiple stakeholders. There are kids, there are elderly, there are, of course, our frontline workers, and then common people like you and me. So all of this is the dictionary definition of a wicked problem. And when we go to design thinking, this is the best way that we have to come out of a problem like this. And people in their own way have somehow resorted to this also. आप देखिए so many innovations have come in the last 1 year. Uh, Temporary mask, hand stitched mask, mask out of recycled t-shirt, um, face shields made out of plastic holders, and mm, what else is there? Mm, so many temporary fixes that we are seeing. There was also this high adaptability. If you can go to slide number 9, Ashwini. Yes, adaptability of this the picture is from you know shared by a friend of mine, Anil Anthony. He's the Youth Congress president, and he is from Kerala. He's an MP from Kerala. So he, along with some other people from his constituency, they created this temporary hospital, 20-bed COVID-19 recovery center to create some kind of isolation ward. And many other states had come up with state-run teleconsultation health services, which were completely born and implemented during the lockdown. So you've seen how adaptability was used as a massive weapon during the pandemic to address the healthcare needs. Then there was adaptability for survival. In Nagpur's Aureus Hospital. Can you move to the next slide, Ashwin? Yes, Nagpur's Aureus Hospital. The doctors themselves, they convinced, came up with this COVID safe transport system, which was just like a lid. It's a transparent covering put on the coronavirus patient to transport them from one place to another without letting the medical staff or the doctors from being infected. then the advanced patients, which you can find now in every store that you enter or every public building that you enter, foot operated basins or foot operated, sanitizing machines. So these are all innovations that have been brought in the last 1 year and are excessively so much so that now we fail to even recognize it as an innovation because it is something that has become part and parcel of our life. मतलब यही चीज आप साल भर पहले सोच के देखिए तो you would have miracled at the innovation that something like this could exist, and now it is something that you are interacting with on a day-to-day basis. Similarly, positive deviance का एक और example है. Move on to the next slide, Ashwin, which is this teacher Ranjit Singh Desale, who won the Global Teacher Award. ये Converinga Karunapati पे भी आए थे, and there was a mass media coverage about his work as an innovative teacher and his idea of coming with barcodes and these scanning codes in within the textbook itself. तो ये उन्होंने 3 साल पहले किया था, and with the help of this foresight and vision that he had in 2018, this was used in all government books 2019 onwards, and now it helped a lot of teachers, to deliver content through the Disha app and many other digital platforms for teaching the people without having to, step into the school campus at all. So इस तरीके की बहुत सारे एग्जाम्पल्स आपको देखने को मिलेंगे. The next is disrupting thinking by Gitanjali Rao. We go to the next slide. This girl,
Sorry for the interruption. I guess ma'am is facing some network issue. Stay tuned. Ma'am will we are retrieving ma'am soon.
hello, hi. I think I lost you guys for a bit. Is it better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just a moment. All right. So I was talking about Gitanjali Rao, and I don't know till what part you guys heard me, so I'll just repeat myself. And something that she invented this app called Kindly, which helps you protect yourself against cyber trolling and all kinds of cyber crime. So yeah, something like this is the need of PR, especially when we're doing so many things, right from education to recreation to all kinds of work which is happening online. It's very important to safeguard yourself and also important for your digital well-being. That not let yourself be judged by what your social media profile is. So yeah, that is Gitanjali Rao for you. Coming back to do something which we call as the design thinking framework. Now, why I'm telling you about the design thinking framework is often it is assumed that design thinking or a flash of genius or innovation or entrepreneurship, this happens through a flash of genius or out of the blue, and some people are born with extraordinary talent or extraordinary thinking abilities. But more often than not, it is not true because, and you can see it from evidences in history also that people, some of the most brilliant people, have gathered themselves, surrounded themselves with people who come from very diverse backgrounds and done this process of innovation and entrepreneurship again and again and again, repeatedly, co-working with their users so that they can come up with something which is meaningful, which is, you know, innovative, and also at the same time uh, give priority to the needs of the user. Yeah. So it is not a flash of genius, it is a set of five simple steps, which is now a standard practice in the design community and also in the technology community. Uh, so since most of you are from like engineering background, in fact, all of you are from engineering background. So this is important to understand in the tech field also. This is a standard um, five-step framework, and it is developed by Stanford D School, and it is followed all across the world in most places. So it consists of five steps. First is empathize, second is define, third is ideate, fifth, fourth is prototype, and fifth is testing. So I think ideation, prototype, is testing is something which you might be able to somewhat associate yourself with because you yourself have your practicals, you develop things, you develop prototypes, and you test it out, and be it apps or physical products or services, whatever. But the first two, empathize and define, where you will need a little bit of hand holding. I'll take a moment here to ask Ashwini if we have any questions or queries till now.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Yes. So when we talk about the first phase, which is empathy, it means that it is a very strong sense of emotional connection, a connection that you have with someone else, which is which can be positive and negative. It is a little different from sympathy because when you sympathize with someone, you are automatically putting yourself one step higher than them and think of yourself in a superior position where you can help the other person. Empathy is not like empathy is where you try to actually listen, feel the sense of pain or pleasure, and see how you can work together to make it better or amplify the feeling of happiness or make it last longer. Okay, so this is where empathy differs from sympathy. Now, easier said than done. Empathy is a complex process, yeah, a process which is purely from the social sciences and something that you might not be able to relate yourself immediately. But there are ways of doing it, and set ways, and you can use either of the multiple ways that I'm going to let you know about. And we can again discuss about each of these ways tomorrow. So in today's rest of the session, we are going to talk about empathy and how it can help us view things in a novel manner. So there are multiple ways of practicing it. Firstly is observation. कि आप चीजों को देखें, उन्हें महसूस करें, एंड देन उसको रियलाइज करें कि इनको कैसे और बेहतर बनाया जा सकता है. And I'll give you this example of teleconsultation. Practo, Docon, many such apps are there, NetMeds, and your online, all these apps which allow you to consult online and also to order online. All these apps were there even before the COVID era. But this teleconsultation or e-consultation gained practice only during this time when there was a physical limitation that of us not being able to go out. And आपने देखा होगा कि आपके parents या grandparents they before this at least this lockdown period actually struggling with technology. Sometimes आप उनसे video call पे बात करते हैं या you know voice call पे बात करते हैं and WhatsApp पे भी वो phone को ऐसे सामने रखे होते हैं, although it is a voice call and they don't need to hold it right in front of them, या कभी कभी video call में वो कान पे लगा ले. तो ये practical issues हैं और वो डॉक्टर जो होगा वो हमें टाइम नहीं देगा, हमारी बात नहीं सुनेगा, या maybe they will not mm, give us enough importance. Will it be real? Will we get a prescription? How will the doctor measure our vitals? वो सब कैसे चेक होगा? बहुत क्वेश्चन सबके दिमाग में रहते थे. आपके अपने घर में भी ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स होंगे, पेरेंट्स होंगे जिनको इन सब चीजों से लगता था कि मतलब ये कैसे पॉसिबल हो पाए. बट दिस ऑल चेंज एंड पीपल लर्न because of this limitation that कि आप नहीं जा सकते. So they start doing things online, booking consultations. And now if you look at most of them, they say that it is actually better because वहां पे तो डॉक्टर हमारी बात सुनता भी नहीं है. कई बार they keep looking down and scribbling something on the paper. They're not even talking to you, even hearing you out properly. So these are changes that have happened. Um, और ये ऑब्जर्वेशन से आप देख सकते हैं, इन प्रॉब्लम्स को समझ सकते हैं, इनको सॉल्व करने की और बेहतर कोशिश कर सकते हैं. इसीलिए अब अगर इंडस्ट्री ट्रेंड्स में देखा जाए तो this is going to be a trend which is going to stay for much longer, which is e-consultation. All right. Secondly, also because there is low contact, there is low risk of transmission, and elderly लोगों को स्पेशली ट्रैवल करने में या उनको कहीं लाने ले जाने में काफी दिक्कतें होती हैं, तो इसलिए उनके लिए ये काफी कन्वीनियंट है एंड दिस विल स्टे. So first I was telling you about observation. Next that I think you must know about something is called conversation. Conversation का मतलब क्या होता है यहाँ पर? It can be a casual conversation, it can be a formal interview, it can be a written interview also. And now what researchers like me and many people from my community are doing is telephonic or video interviews that we are doing right now. So you talk to the people just as you would have if you met them in person, and you have a list of questions already written down with you, and then try to get to know the problem in further detail. So ये मैं आपको एक अपनी रियल लाइफ सिनेरियो का एग्जांपल देती हूँ, जिसमें हमने एक स्कूल के स्टूडेंट्स के साथ प्रोजेक्ट किया था. Where we were looking at redistribution of household chores, especially during the lockdown, and we were trying to find out, what is the most disturbing or most tiresome task in the house, and what you can do to make the life of the primary caregiver or the mother or the women in the family better. तो सबने मतलब A to Z 100% लोगों के responses were about washing utensils या बर्तन धोने के मामले में सबने उसके ट्रिक्स भी निकाल लिए थे कि मतलब दिन में ऐसा करके and this is something that we learn from our interviews by talking to people in person first hand um, experiences with them. So ग्लासेस फिक्स कर लिए या सबके अलग साइज के या अलग कलर के to you like why is it assumed that the women of the house they have to take up the task or some children were getting irritated कि हम पढ़ाई करें online कि हम बर्तन धोएं कि हम क्या करें because not understanding that it is equally difficult for they are home they are not time with them all of them have their specific demands किसी को चाय चाहिए किसी को खाना चाहिए somebody might be ill so there are all kinds of needs that you have to tend to and there's even have to remind anyone that मुझे क्यों डांटना पड़ता है या बोलना पड़ता है मुझे नहीं लगता अच्छा लगता to be the villain of the house telling other people to do these things because it's not just my job if you don't wash these dishes then you also will suffer in the next meal because you won't have something to eat out of so many interesting of these conversations this is the whole agenda of me telling about this anecdote to you all. So whenever you're having a conversation or an interview, there are some ground rules. Firstly, when you talk to someone, then talk about specific instances. जैसे अगर मुझे पूछना है किसी से say I have to ask since Ashwini is the only person that I have on this call, if I have to get her opinion about online classes, then Ashwini, just tell me, how do you think, how effective are online classes these days? Ashwini? Ashwini? Can you hear me, Ashwini?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, actually, just presentation. So, yeah, ma'am, you
Okay,
were
no
asking
problem.
about the online experience of the online classes.
Yes, actually, I'm doing a demo of how to conduct an interview. So, since you're the only person on this call and the class is not there how it usually is, I'll do a mock run of how interview should be with you. What is your
Okay.
experience of the online classes or online lectures? Please tell me.
Uh, I mean, it's completely different from how it used to be in offline cases. I mean, we don't have a direct contact with the teacher. Like, they cannot see our experience. They cannot note that whether the students are getting stuffs or not. Actually, there are various
Okay.
problems. I mean, we just try our best to learn, but it's like just reading the textbooks and so.
Okay, so now I think काफी time हो गया है, I think almost nearly a year of online classes. So, what are the hacks that you have taken out to make yourself understand more or be more vigilant in a class? Number one. Secondly, how is it helpful in classes that you actually did not want to attend and now have a way of putting your camera off or whatever? So, how is it beneficial for those classes? Uh, these are the two questions that I have. And thirdly, if you could, then what would you change about this medium of instruction?
Okay, ma'am. The hacks you asked the first question. So about hacks, now we have the slides of the teachers and the notes they give us. We sometimes also record the lectures so that we could listen the lectures later on, and
Okay.
that's the hack we have got. Like it's better. I mean, note taking is quite easier. Like you can go and see that what happened if you in case you missed something, and
Hmm.
the next question was, I guess, you asked that how we avoid the lectures we didn't want to take.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's actually better in that case also because obviously there are some lectures who are quite boring we feel and so
Hmm.
we just put off the camera and we can work some other works there, and we can just get back to those stuffs later on. So it's beneficial too, I can say that a bit.
Yeah. So third question, what would you do to make this medium of instruction or interaction between a student and a teacher better?
Ma'am,
Anything that you will immediately think of?
ma'am, I guess it's going on in quite I mean, the best way possible. In our case, actually, the teachers, they just present their slides and just explain through them, so it's all going very well. And in case we have any doubt, we just ask them anytime. So I
Okay.
don't think there's much I can think right now.
Okay. So I think you might, all the people who are going to be seeing this on YouTube, you can get a sense of idea that, how this is going. And also, whenever you are talking to someone, talk about specific instances. Like if I ask Ashwini how your online classes are, and how well are you able to communicate or participate in them, then she may give me an example that they are conducted very well, and बहुत अच्छा है, it's convenient for us, we can go back to your recording and listen to it again. But honestly tell me, Ashwin, and anybody else, I'm not accusing you or anybody, because I take online classes with so many colleges and university, and I have had this conversation with a lot of students. None of them, not even one, has ever told me that they have gone back and heard the recording. Not even one student. उस समय अगर सुन लिया तो सुन लिया, but none of them has ever gone back to the recording to hear what sense it made to them, even if the teacher has taken the time and effort to record it. So when I talk to someone like this, and then they tell me that, talking about a specific issue, that they say that they have the option of going back, or they have actually never gone back. So it can help us probe into the reason of why this loophole is existing, and what we can do to make this better. Okay. And this gap in our understanding we have used in developing some of the online courses that we've been working for in you know services like a Udemy or your Coursera. So this helps us make them better. Even if you have pre-recording sessions, how can you make that better? All right. How these
Yes,
gaps
ma'am.
are important, and how it is important to ask specific questions. Secondly, when you ask someone or you take a conversation forward, do not try to lead the conversation. It may have sounded that, me being a teacher, I am trying to say that, students are putting the camera off, or not paying attention, and, not respecting, whatever it is. I think even if I am a participant to any webinar, and there are millions of them happening these days in the last 1 year, I think all of us must have attended at least 1,000 webinars and meetings. And even if I don't want to attend it, then I put my camera off and pretend that I'm there. So it's not something that I'm not doing. Everybody has done it in the last 1 year. And it is because for how long do you think anybody can maintain that attention span and stay online when there are a million other things that are happening on your phone and notifications are coming? People are at home. You don't have the privacy. So these are genuine problems that can come to you. And this is not me leading the conversation in either direction. But it can so happen that when you are trying to solve a problem, you wanted to head in a certain direction. या ये भी हो सकता है कि मैं एज अ टीचर ये बोलना चाहूँ कि भाई नहीं, स्टूडेंट्स की तरफ से ये गलती है क्योंकि वो हमारी बात का या हमारे एफर्ट का ध्यान नहीं देते, तो शायद if I move my conversation in that direction, then something more meaningful will come out of it. But that is not how interviews or empathy interviews in specifically should be done. All right? Do not ask leading questions. Third point is that, try to avoid asking questions which can be answered in one word, either yes or no, because then it doesn't give the scope to the other person to explain their side of the story. which happened right now because I mean I'm just not able to have a physical interaction or a one-to-one interaction with Ashwini, and it might seem that I'm just saying something and she's adding her bit here and there. But whenever you're conducting an empathy interview, take the time out, be there in person, so that the other person whom you're talking to, they feel that you really want to listen to what they are saying, and always conduct these interviews and conversations in pairs, so that if one person who is asking the question, he or she misses out on some detail, the other person is there to make a written record or an audio record or a video record of it, which you will need to make a transcription and get insights from that interview. Okay? There are a couple of things that I have told you about, interviews, um, which you must keep in mind. There's one more thing that I want to tell you is that, at no point of time during the interview should you shy away from silences. There are times when your respondent does not want to talk about a certain thing. So take some time, change the topic, maybe talk about something that they are more comfortable with, change the wording of your question, and try to frame it in a manner that they can become, you know, more convenient. It should not at any point come to a dead end where you have asked something they don't want to answer and the conversation is over. The conversation needs to keep going. Even if they don't want to answer that question, you have to move on to something else. If not that question, some other question, or whatever you want to get out of that conversation. All right? Ashwini, I hope you can convey it to the YouTube channel as well, because I will be sharing notes of how to and things to do and not do during an empathy interview. There's a very standard format from Stanford Dean School only, so which we can share it with the students. All right,
Yeah, sure, ma'am. I will do that.
all right. So we have discussed two things. One is observation. Second is conversation or talking to people, interviews, empathy interviews, as we like to call them. Third is something which is called shadowing or a day in the life of, where you follow the person through their experience. Say, for example, if I want to make the life of a paramedic better through this, you know, pandemic and how exhaustive their work hours have been. In order to be able to do that, I need to see their behavior and how their typical day looks like or a week looks like for them. What kind of work shifts are there. So you can shadow that person. And shadowing means like you literally follow them in every step of the day. Uh, you know, what they're doing, the kind of breaks that they get, what they do in that break, their meal times, how short or long they are. What are the periods where they are most attentive, or what are the periods where they are required to be most attentive. um, you know what kind of judgment calls they make in terms of patient related emergencies or non emergencies. So yeah, this shadowing especially helps in making these kind of solving these kind of problems. Next empathy technique would be ethnography, which for me as a researcher and as a design person from the design community has not happened in the last 1 year. Because ethnography means that you embed yourself in that culture, live with those people who are facing that problem, and experience it with them. So it is a very immersive and truly empathetic experience. But due to this pandemic and our limitations of physical travel, that is not happening. So we are trying best at every level, and I'm sure you all will also, in whatever innovations or disruptive problems that you try to solve. That since these ethnographic immersive exercises cannot happen, so you try to compensate that with interviews or more detailed interviews, and you can conduct multiple rounds of it if you feel that one conversation was not enough. Then the next form of empathy technique is your analogous experience. I'll tell you how analogous experiences work. So, for example, somebody is asthmatic. They are having coronavirus, and they have been put on breathing support, and their assisted breathing and multiple things, put into their nose and all sorts of things. So how do you make that experience better? Now, obviously, the person who is then in that situation will not be able to communicate it with you because they are going through a lot. And secondly, even if they come out of the situation, they might not want to relive it. Secondly, may not have vivid memory of how they went through that experience. So you might not be able to get enough information from them. The best you can do is talk to the paramedics, to people around them, but they also will not be able to define it in words. So best is to look for an analogy in a completely different setting, like for example, take snorkeling or scuba diving, where you have assisted breathing, but it's a more pleasurable experience. That is not something that you're forced to do, and it's a different setting altogether. So you can get your insights or you know how to make that better from there. So are you getting an example how analogous experiences work? Ashwini, you are my only guinea pig right now, so I'm uh, just hoping that I get my answers from you.
Yes, ma'am.
So did you understand this whole explain?
Hello. Sorry, ma'am. Can you just repeat the last line? Actually, there was some network issue. I guess I didn't heard.
Yeah, I'm saying that, did you understand this whole empathy technique of analogous experience?
Yes, ma'am. I got a bit. Yeah, I'm just
Okay, okay.
still trying to
What
figure.
I'm saying was that, analogous experience means what you have to do is that, if you are trying to find a solution and the person who is going through that problem is not able to tell it to you themselves, then you look for an analogy in a different situation where people are able to tell you about it. Like if you're trying to make a better breathing equipment for somebody with breathing problems, so obviously the ill person cannot tell you, but if you ask somebody who has gone for snorkeling or scuba diving or some other kind of space experiment, so they also have assisted breathing, but they will be able to tell you because they are conscious, and that is a pleasurable experience and not something where you are sick and unwell.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
You get it? So this is how analogous technique of empathy works.
So basically, we are providing an analogy to something.
Analogy to a behavior.
Yes,
या
ma'am.
कैसे पता आपको उस यूजर को क्या प्रॉब्लम हो? फिर आप ये स्लाइड से आई डोंट नो इफ यू आर स्टिल स्क्रीन शेयरिंग बट these slides are there.
Yeah, just ma'am.
Uh,
I'm just sharing the slides once again. Just a minute, ma'am.
yes.
Yeah, they are visible now.
So can you go to slide number 14?
14. Yeah, just ma'am. Just a minute. Yeah, this one.
Okay. So stakeholder mapping. This is something where you track different people who are affected by the problem. Say, for example, you are um, trying to solve the problem of anything, any problem. Say, people not adhering to traffic rules or people not wearing masks in public places. So, who all are the people affected by it? Who are the people in charge of keeping that in check? Who are the people as who are most affected? Like, say, for example, doctors or paramedics. Because अगर आप नहीं पहनते हो, तो उनका काम और उनकी effort सबसे ज़्यादा increase होता है. So when you are doing a stakeholder mapping for some problem like this, you consider every possible person who is or can be affected by that problem. You write down their experiences, you talk to all of them, and make a note of the problems of each of these stakeholders. All right. So this is what stakeholder mapping is, and this is also an integral part of your empathy exercise or the empathy phase of the style taking framework. तो अभी हमने बात करी कॉन्वर्सेशन या इंटरव्यूज की. गो टू द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड अश्विनी. Yes, we spoke about conversation and interviews. Spoke about next slide, immersion and ethnography. We also spoke about extreme users, where I gave you the next slide, the examples of you know the analogy analogous experience. Okay, and then we also spoke about stakeholder mapping, which I explained to you at the end. So these are a few techniques of empathy that I had wanted to discuss with you. Tomorrow, when we meet, I will do a quick recap of these empathy exercises or the techniques that you can use. And also, we will move on to the next stage of the design thinking framework, which is probably the most difficult part of it, which is defining the problem and needs the most hand holding from me as a facilitator. So, please feel free to send in your questions or any queries to the eCell, and we will all take them up tomorrow. And then thank you so much for being part of this workshop. And thank you, Isel and Ashwini and Sikta, all those people involved, Professor Saurabh Gupta sir, for having me. I'm looking forward to another meaningful session tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really a wonderful. The workshop was really very nice and friendly, and especially I understood a lot. So thank you for joining. And we hope, in case we have any query, I will convey it to you. So I guess we'll end here. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Bye.